What if Ned Stark didn't allow Sansa to marry Joffrey? Let's explore the depths of it in the video.
You helped me win the Iron Throne, now help me keep the damn thing. We were meant to rule together. If your sister had lived, we'd have been bound by blood. Well, it's not too late. I have a son, you have a daughter. We'll join our houses.
Ned stares at the king, wondering if this is one of his jests. But though his eyes sparkle, he can tell that Robert is being serious. Just as serious as he was when he offered to make him the hand. It should be a great honor. It is a great honor, yet something nags at the back of his mind. Lysa's letter warning about the Lannisters. To accept this would mean putting himself in danger. Not just himself, but his children, if he accepts that offer. That thought scares him more than anything the Lannisters might do to him. Yet to reject the king when he offers something like this is a great risk.
Robert, you are honoring my house with these gifts. This touches me. I would be glad to serve as your hand. However, I do not believe that a marriage is appropriate now. Sansa, she is not even a woman yet.
I don't mean to get married tomorrow, Ned. There is time.
Take her south with you. Let her get to know my boy.
We'll plan there.
An excellent thought. But if I may, perhaps we hold off on anything certain just yet. Let me go on ahead and meet your boy for myself. It is not an insult to you or your boy, but it's just that you and Lyanna cared for each other. I must be sure that Joffrey will be the same before I'm prepared to give her up.
The mention of Lyanna seems to sober him up as he dips his head respectfully and regards Ned a bit more seriously.
Aye, that's true enough. Joffrey isn't like me, but whether that's good or bad is up to you to decide. Very well. I suppose it won't hurt to wait a bit. Though, just be certain Cat doesn't accept any more marriage proposals while we're gone.
Ned bows his head gratefully. It isn't much, but at least it is a delay he needs. He just needs to figure out what to do with it. He decides that he will head south with his household, but none of his kids will go with him. Unsurprisingly, when Sansa gets word of this, she is heartbroken, thinking that her chance to finally see the south was snatched away from her, and that Ned also denied her the chance to marry her prince. She first pleads and begs for Ned to take her, asking if she had done something wrong. When he says she has done nothing of the sort, and this is what's best for her, she curses her father instead, saying she hates him. She even refuses to speak to him as he rides off with Robert. It soon becomes clear that not taking Sansa and Arya with him was the wise choice. The court of King's Landing is a viper pit, ready to tear those unprepared to pieces. As soon as he arrives, the Lord of Winterfell finds himself in a power struggle with different factions within the small council. All he tries to look into is Jon Arryn's death. And though it takes months, he soon begins to piece things together. Jon Arryn had uncovered incest between Jaime and Cersei Lannister, and this had produced their children. In the meantime, Bran is nearly killed by a cat's paw, prompting Catelyn to launch her investigation that leads her to believe that Tyrion Lannister is responsible. Both these events culminate in a Lannister invasion of the Riverlands and Ned Stark's arrest in the capital. The Stark children can only watch this in horror, especially Sansa, who is horrified to see this happen to her father. Since he left her for the south, she had resented him for not agreeing to this marriage and for leaving her in Winterfell. She said she hated him and was being unfair, but for the first time, she sees why he truly decided to do that. He was trying to keep her safe, but he paid the price for it, and this revelation leaves her heartbroken. Especially when Robb calls his bannerman. She spends days in her room, crying and hiding in her bed, racked with guilt for what she had said to him. She barely heard the door open.
Sansa, it's time for supper. My bannermen are here. It would be discourteous if our whole family weren't there to greet them.
What does it matter if I'm there or not? I'm not leading them to battle. It won't free our father. He won't even want to see me.
Don't say that. He kept you here because he cared about you, and he wanted to see you safe.
Yes, and how did I repay him? I said I hated him, and didn't even say goodbye.
Then say I'm sorry when I bring father back, because I will return with him.
I know you're going to save him while I sit here, useless and scared. Everyone is doing something. Arya helps keep watch of Rickon. Bran meets with the lords. But what good am I?
You're not useless, sister. You were the Lady of Winterfell until Mother returns. Everyone from our brothers and sisters to the household looks to you for inspiration. That means seeing you. Seeing the pain this causes. how you continue to fight despite it. That means showing the Bannermen what they're fighting for. Not just father, but our family. It means keeping Bran, Arya, and Rickon safe.
Do you trust me with that?
I do.
Then give me a few minutes to get dressed and wash my face.
Robb smiles and shuts the door. Half an hour later, Sansa is sitting by his side in a fresh gown. She speaks courteously to each lord and lady who approaches her, thanking them for their bravery and accepting their kind words with dignity. It is no ball like she had read in the stories, but now more than ever she is grateful for their presence and thanks them. By the end, she rises to her feet and calls for silence.
I would like to call upon the attention of the brave men of the North. These last days have been a trying time for my family, and for me especially. I have not treated my father fairly, and in these last days I have done things I regret, so it gladdens my heart to see the love you all bear for him. It is also why I come to you, not as your lady, but as a daughter of a good man. I beg your help in bringing him home.
A few Northmen tear up at those words, while others raise their swords in the air, vowing not to rest until Ned is home safe. Robb beams at his sister, who sees the power her words have to move the men into action. By the next day, the Northmen march with renewed spirits. Sansa and Arya stand by the battlements to wave them off and thank them for their bravery. Now more than ever, it proves wise that Ned did not bring his daughters with him. As he languishes in the black cells, he at least takes comfort in that they are safe and the Lannisters have no leverage over him, and thus refuses to confess. Meanwhile, Robb proves to be a master commander, whose arrival in the Riverlands immediately turns the tide of the war. Although Tywin wins the Battle of the Green Fork, this victory rings hollow, as he soon receives word that Robb and a small detachment rush to Riverrun and shatter Jaime's host and capture the Kingslayer. This completely reverses the tide of the Riverlands campaign, and is a massive humiliation for the Lannisters. But with Ned Stark alive, they have something to trade. Tywin immediately sends terms to cease hostilities, offering apologies for how far things have escalated. He graciously offers to withdraw his troops and trade Ned for his son. He tries to push it further by suggesting that the Starks acknowledge Joffrey as their new king, but they refuse this. After what happened to Ned, they are not interested in working with the Lannisters or accepting them as king. To them, this is simply an exchange of hostages, not a cessation of hostilities. The best they offer is that Ned vows not to take up arms against the Lannisters if Jaime promises the same thing. This is something Robb will accept. Tywin is furious at this and wishes to continue holding Ned Stark, but time is not on their side. Although he is certain the Starks will not mistreat him, the Starks can afford to wait, as the Baratheon brothers are both gathering their armies to press their claims to the crown. If the Lannisters are to secure their position on the Iron Throne, they will need to cease hostilities with the Starks. He then proposes something else, that even if they will not accept Joffrey as king, the Starks return north and will not take further part in the fighting. They may accept their king once the matter is decided. Though some of the other Northmen see this as a sign of weakness and mock Tywin, it is a tempting offer to Ned. He has done his part, and this will allow them to preserve their strength for another day. He is open to the idea and even offers to write to Robb to urge him to accept. Seeing his father's request, Robb considers his position and agrees, though with some stipulations. He reaffirms that they will not bend the knee to Joffrey, and instead of a permanent truce, they will agree to a 1-year ceasefire where the North and Riverlands will not join the war against each other. It is better than nothing, and Tywin accepts this offer. The next day, Ned is led out with a strong escort, and Jaime is sent on a boat to the Trident to Blackwater Bay. The Stark camp is overjoyed to see Ned Stark home safe. Robb and the other Northmen cheer for his arrival, showering praise on the young lord for his handling of the war. Even Ned is impressed by what happened, and thanks Catelyn and Robb for their efforts.
I must say, Robb, you've handled things masterfully. I think even King Robert would be impressed with what he's seen. It's not often that someone can defy Tywin.
Indeed. But what matters is you're safe home, my love.
You were amazing too, my dear. I heard you were the one who advised Robb through all of this.
We all had our parts to play, even my siblings in Winterfell.
Aye. Speaking of which, what of Sansa?
She is at home, serving as lady of the castle. She misses you dearly.
And I her. Let us go home.
Soon enough, most of the Northmen turn back to their homes. Only a small garrison along with the Blackfish is left behind to keep watch of the Riverlands. These men will help keep order and rebuild the ruins of the region, something even Tywin cannot oppose, given how small they are. These men are stationed in Harrenhal and keep watch of the fighting down south. They will handle the remaining prisoner exchanges in the following weeks, but Ned Stark and his family return home. By the time they reach Winterfell, a celebration has been prepared to honor their return. They are greeted by flowers and pine leaves being showered upon their victorious army, while children and women rush out to cheer for them and offer garlands of flowers. Ned and Robb are treated like returning heroes. At the gate of Winterfell, Sansa, Bran, and Rickon are all waiting. They warmly welcome their parents and brother with embraces and kind words, but once the door shuts behind them, the true reunion begins. Sansa tears up as she wraps her arms around Ned's waist, while the others talk with Robb and Catelyn.
Father, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I said. I was such a child for speaking to you that way.
Shh. It's okay, Sansa. You didn't know.
I didn't think I would ever see you again.
Neither did I, little one. But I am so grateful to be here now. Enough tears, Sansa. Today is a happy day, and we should celebrate.
The feast inside Winterfell's hall is lavish as noble families greet their returning men, while a few mourn those who have fallen. Ned takes his place upon the Lord's seat, with Robb and Catelyn by his side. For once, Sansa is happy to be at a lesser table with her siblings. As Ned returns to his seat, he speaks to his bannermen and his household. Surprisingly, he hears how well Sansa kept things together in Winterfell. She helped run the castle, met with bannermen whose families went off to war, and offered them thanks and condolences for their efforts. Her courtly personality helped endear them to them, and she soon began learning of true responsibilities of a lady. She accepts these praises and politely curtsies. But as she finishes her meal, one last lord approaches her once the others have left.
Care to dance, my dear?
Lord Manderley, I would be honored.
As the two join the others dancing in the great hall, the large lord takes Sansa in his arms, careful to avoid hurting her. Despite his size, he is a surprisingly good dancer. They sway through the crowds and head off to a secluded area.
You've done well keeping your house together in these difficult times. Most of the lords have nothing but good things to say about you. It is a shame I was not able to visit Winterfell while you were there.
Indeed. But the halls of Winterfell are always open to loyal bannermen such as you.
That is very kind of you. It is that loyalty that brings me to you now, Lady Sansa. I think you've seen how chaotic politics in the South are. A lady's courtesy is not enough to survive in a place like that.
That is true, but I am glad my father is home safe and we can put that madness behind us.
Beg your pardon, my lady, but this madness is far from over.
I'm afraid I don't understand. We won. Ned Stark is home safe, and we have peace with the Lannisters.
We have a ceasefire with the Lannisters, one that will expire within a year. I am the first to express my thanks that Ned Stark is home safe, but the war still rages, and the other kings will be looking to the north to see which side we declare for. We've already unsheathed our swords. We cannot claim neutrality like the Vale of Dawn. When our ceasefire expires, we must either enter talks with the Lannisters or declare for one of Robert's brothers.
I had not considered that. I must apologize. All of these politics are rather confusing for me.
It's no worry, child. It is confusing to most people, but that is why I am here. We Manderleys are considered the most southern of the Stark's bannermen. We understand the politics of places like the Reach and King's Landing better than anyone. I offer you the chance to learn about it in the Merman's Court.
You wish to take me as your ward?
Aye, if you give permission. We all have our pace. War is for the young, strong men like your brother. I've heard your sister prefers the sword to sewing needles, but you, I think you shall thrive in politics.
Sansa is surprised to hear such high praise from the Lord. Unlike the others she has heard tonight, this does not seem like empty courtesy, but genuine observation. She thanks him for this and promises to think about it. When she brings it up to Ned and Catelyn, both are reluctant. They had reunited their family, and sending Sansa off so soon doesn't feel right. But as the Lord of Winterfell looks upon his daughter, he sees a spark of determination that wasn't there before, a fire that had been awoken by recent events. He can't help but be impressed. It is the same fire he's seen in Robb when he plans battles, or Arya when she gets her hand on a sword. Rather than discouraging her now, Ned agrees and sends her to White Harbor. The domain of the Manderleys is nothing like the other northern houses. They are far wealthier and command the only major city in the north. The city is built closer to southern castles and towns instead of austere northern villages. There are septs and singers aplenty, with a southern court. It is everything Sansa dreamed of, and Wyman happily indulges his new ward. The Fat Lord was never one to shy away from feasts and lavish events. He hosts regular tourneys, balls, and festivals with the money he generates from trade. But he doesn't just let her enjoy the fun parts of Southern Court. Waymon is true to his word when he instructs her about politics. He starts by pointing out the smaller disputes within his court.
Pay attention, Lady Sansa. While the court may seem like a single great being, like a dragon, it is closer to an army of bannermen. Each one might have the same goal, but they have different ways of going about it, and different ulterior motives. My knights will not want the same thing my singer craves, but they all wish for my favor. My maester quarrels with some of my guardsmen over different beliefs. My singer and my septon argue about what is appropriate to say in this court. And my good daughter quarrels with my cook over how much she feeds my dear Willis. That is what the court is. A dozen different groups, each wanting something else, even if they serve the same lord.
If they all want different things, then how do they get anything done?
You are asking a real question there, child. That is where those who know how to play this game must accomplish, ensuring that they all work towards the same goal. For us, it is keeping White Harbor strong and healthy, and for the court down south, keeping the Iron Throne secure.
Sansa nods, and so begins her journey as a player in the Game of Thrones. It starts simple enough with Lord Waymon teaching her how to observe and study the people around her. She identifies the cliques and factions within the court, but also what they want and demand. Waymon shows her to keep close watch of what they claim and what they do in reality. She watches those who seem to despise each other in public but share secret meetings. With that knowledge, Sansa begins learning how to moderate disputes. She approaches them individually or in groups and offers to mediate. The Manderley watches closely as she does this, and watches with growing pride as she succeeds more and more, binding groups and allowing them to put aside their differences. They begin to move on to Westeros as a whole. He has her study the histories of great houses, their culture and customs, and what might motivate them to act certain ways. With that, she then studies the events of King's Landing, and what they know to try and trace back where they went wrong to prevent it from happening again. This particular lesson is difficult for Sansa to study, chiefly because of how her father was involved in all of this, and how this led to his near death. Yet the Fat Lord encourages her, telling her that this is to secure their future. With some difficulty, Sansa continues her studies, and soon enough the months go by, and the 1-year truce they secured looks ready to expire. Though the North might have been at peace, the rest of Westeros remains engulfed in conflict. With his peace secured in the north, Tywin returned to reinforce King's Landing. He spent some time securing it, fortifying the wall, ordering a fresh batch of wildfire, and hiring sellswords to protect the castle while ensuring steady supply lines from the Westerlands. Most importantly, he puts Cersei and Joffrey in their place. He gives both stern reprimands on who is in command and orders Cersei back to Castle Rock while Jaime gathers the remnants of his army and protects their holdings, ensuring that Cersei is kept occupied as well. By the time he leaves, King's Landing is in a strong position and leaves him free to attack Renly. Though he fears Stannis, the King of the Narrow Sea remains locked in Dragonstone, with a relatively small army and few prospects to take the city on its own, so the Lord of Castle Rock leaves a strong garrison behind under the command of Kevan, with orders to Joffrey to listen to everything his granduncle tells him. He instead opts to confront Renly first and deal with him as he gained the allegiance of the Reach and Stormlands, leaving him to far outnumber Tywin. By the time he marches out, the King of the South is marching through Bitterbridge, through the Stormlands at a leisurely pace. But with their forces distracted, Tywin decides to strike south towards Highgarden, which is only defended by Mace Tyrell and 10,000 men. Soon they face the same carnage that the Riverlands face, with Tywin sending out his raiders. Sir Amory, the Mountain, and Vago Hoat come streaming out into the rich and fertile lands of the Reach and sow chaos. Golden fields, once fat with grain, are reduced to ash. Smoke rises in twisting plumes that blot out the sun. Tywin Lannister's campaign is not one of glory, but of terror. His forces fan out across the countryside, led by his most ruthless captains. Villages are sacked, their wealth stripped, their people butchered or forced to work. The sounds of steel and screaming carry on the wind like a curse. Amory Loach rides down farmers in the open field. The mountain cleaves men and horses alike, his armor red from blood that never has time to dry. Vargo Hote cackles as his brave companions take hostages and string them from trees. No house is spared. Small folk flee in every direction, but there is nowhere left to run. Mace Tyrell, furious and unprepared, takes to the field to defend his lands. He chases raiders in impetuous charges, thinking that they will break at the sight of his well-organized knights. And rather than consolidate his forces, he continues to chase them, marching directly into Tywin's trap. His bannermen are scattered across the countryside. His scouts are dead. His lines are disorganized. The battle is brief and brutal. Lannister discipline crushes Reach enthusiasm. The flower banners are torn from their standards and trampled into the mud. Mace barely escapes with his life, retreating behind Highgarden's walls. Tywin does not give chase. He does not need to. Mace is sealed in with no way out, his army broken, his pride shattered. He leaves Lord Crackhall to conduct the siege as he presses deeper, further terrorizing the Reach. To the north, more chaos blooms. Jaime Lannister strikes like a golden storm from the Westerlands. Houses that hope to join Renly's alliance find themselves ambushed, routed, and burned to the ground. The coastal towns are threatened by the Lannister navy, which launches raids. In Bitterbridge, Renly Baratheon hears the reports with disbelief.
They've cut off half the river road. Tywin's flaying the Reach. If we do not act, there will be no one left to rally.
They're bleeding my homeland. We must ride now.
Renly agrees. His host wheels south with haste. Too much haste. Foot soldiers straggle behind. Siege engines are left abandoned, but Renly believes victory is within reach. Mace only had 1/10 of his men, and Tywin might only have 1/4 at best. Yet, many of those troops are left struggling to catch up, so by the time Highgarden comes to sight, Renly only has about 30,000 horses and infantry. The fields outside Mander are soaked with blood. Renly's cavalry charges into what seems like a weak Lannister line. Only a few thousand men are left to watch the siege, and they struggle to beat Renly back, their lines buckling under the repeated charges of Sir Loras. But then the rest of the army appears. What should have been leagues away appears up close as Sir Jaime's smaller host appears. Crossbow bolts rain from the tree line. Oil is poured onto the dry grass and lit. Renly's knights scream as fire eats their mounts, scattering in all directions. The young knight tries to rally them, but panic spreads faster than orders. And then the rest of the Lannister army arrives in small numbers at first, but they quickly appear in the thousands as Tywin arrives with reinforcements. The Tyrells have no answer to this sudden arrival, and then they try desperately to rally, only to be crushed. When the dust clears, Renly's banners are in tatters. Hundreds are dead, thousands flee. He returns to Horn Hill, humble and quiet. At Horn Hill, Randall Tarley takes command. Grim and tireless, he reorganizes the remnants of the army and gathers the forces who have not yet arrived. Skirmishes flare across the hills as Tarley harasses Tywin's foraging lines, bleeding the lion little by little. He launches limited offenses, aimed at taking isolated castles and smaller towns instead of sweeping attacks that Renly wants. The progress they make is small, but tangible. However, the momentum is gone. Tywin has struck first, and hard. Still, attrition favors them, and if it continues, they can bleed the Lannisters dry. Renly slowly begins to lead these attacks again, hoping to restore his reputation as a commander and build up his force. Just as things begin to look up for him, news arrives east. New banners rise on the horizon. Ships unfurling the burning stag of Dragonstone land at Weepingtown. Stannis Baratheon has come and moves to besiege Storm's End with relentless efficiency, cutting off the younger brother's access to his Stormland allies. Envoys ride out under truce banners. Some lords waver, some defect, the rest go silent. They've seen Renly's battlefield performance, and many are not keen to battle Tywin again under him. But Stannis is an effective leader, one proven in battle, and one who even the Lannisters would hesitate going up against. Renly's strength bleeds out slowly, through fire, through steel, through fear. Far to the north, in White Harbor, Sansa Stark watches it all unfold. The letters come daily. The Reach is in ruin. Renly is no longer the answer. And while the North agreed to a ceasefire, she begins to see the shape of the war's end. Tywin cannot be beaten in the field without unity. She cannot let the Lannisters win. She's heard what Joffrey did to her father and his household when he dared speak out against them. But Renly was too reckless, too inexperienced. He cannot defeat Tywin or hold the realm together. He can barely hold his domains. This leaves only one. She sits in the merman's court beside Lord Waymon, Manderly, and Ned Stark, who is visiting his daughter.
If Renly falls, then Joffrey will be more secure.
Stannis does not have the manpower to challenge him if the Reach falls to Tywin, even if he rallies the Stormlands.
Not alone.
We can't aid him. I took a vow to keep the North out of the war, and it has not expired yet.
We can't fight for him, but we can still help. You never stopped calling him the true king.
What are you suggesting?
If the Tyrells abandon Renly, if they swear to support Stannis, then perhaps a match with Garland or Soloris might be arranged. I may marry one of them.
You, Sansa?
Yes, me. Robb is a near legend in the South for his victories. Marrying his sister will win the love of the North and the Riverlands. It is as close to a king as they can hope to achieve at this point.
Even wolves can play the game. And you, my lady, are beginning to understand how it's played.
That night, a raven departs White Harbor, flying swiftly over frostbitten trees and southern rivers, bearing Sansa Stark's seal and a path to peace. The letter arrives at Highgarden under seal. Simple, northern, and unassuming. Mace Tyrell unrolls it with a frown, his fingers stained with wine and frustration. He reads the offer once, then again, face growing redder each time.
Sansa Stark, the daughter of a traitor, married to my son. An insult, not a proposal. We have pledged to King Renly. We do not abandon our own.
Around the table, the Tyrell bannermen shift uncomfortably. Not all share his pride. The war is going poorly. The Reach is aflame, and Renly bleeds strength daily. Still, Mace is unmoved. But Olenna Tyrell, the Queen of Thorns, sits quietly in her carved oaken chair. She sips her tea, eyes narrowed in thought. When Mace finishes his rant, she sets the cup down with a quiet clink and leans forward.
You old oaf. You forget yourself.
Mother,
Do you think Tywin will forget how you sheltered Renly when this is over? Do you think Stannis, our lawful king, might I remind you, will look kindly upon us when we stood with his traitorous brother? Sansa Stark is no insult. She is the key. The North is silent, yes, but they are watching, and they have an army. Though they cannot use it, they will win Stannis' favor with this. Accept it, and they will remember it. The Starks have long memories and allies worth having. This letter is not a plea. It is a signal, a window. Take it now or watch it close forever.
The council falls into murmurs. Even Randall Tarley, grim-faced and practical, nods slowly in agreement. Mace frowns, torn between pride and prudence. In the end, it is fear that wins. Randall Tarley receives new orders. Renly does not see it coming. At Horn Hill, he still plans a second march, desperate to reclaim momentum. His banners gather slowly. He speaks of honor, of destiny, of Baratheon blood. Then Tarley arrives with 10 men. No ceremony, no challenge. Just a blade drawn and a name spoken.
in the name of King Stannis Baratheon, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, I place you under arrest for treason.
You swore to me.
I swore to House Tyrell, and House Tyrell now supports the true king. The Starks send their regards.
Renly's men in the castle are all arrested or killed if they try to resist. All except one, that is. Loras Tyrell explodes with fury. He draws his sword on the spot, his voice breaking with rage.
You bastards! You cowards! He is your king!
He cuts down several of the Tarly men before being surrounded and disarmed. He is sent back to Highgarden in chains, under guard. He screams Renly's name until the horizon swallows his voice. Renly is bound and escorted to Storm's End. However, he is not killed, only detained in his castle while Storm's End surrenders to Stannis. Stannis Baratheon receives the young king with no expression. He stands atop the walls of Storm's End as the gate opens and Randall Tarly enters with his captive. The move is not without controversy, and many loyalists are shocked to see what they have done. However, Sansa and Stannis both remind their bannermen that Renly had abandoned Ned in King's Landing and allowed the Lannisters to take over, putting some blame for the war on him. That and Randall Tarley's strong-arming ensured that those loyalists are silenced. Then, a maester arrives with another letter. Stannis reads it slowly. "This is how we will help you. Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell." He lowers the parchment, eyes narrowed. Then he turns to Tarley.
"You've done well, Tarley. Ready the men. We march at sunrise."
The campaign that follows is unlike anything seen in the war so far. Stannis does not race. He grinds. He moves methodically, building supply lines, fortifying strongpoints, claiming towns not with fire but discipline. With the combined strength of Stormlands and Reach levies and quiet support of the north, he pushes westward, drawing Lannister forces out into unfavorable terrain. He strikes when it suits him. He retreats only when he lures his enemies in deeper. Bit by bit, the Lannisters begin to bend. Then, in the Riverlands, they break. The decisive battle sees Tywin Lannister overextend. He slowly pushes back from the Reach and initially tries to retreat into the Westerlands, but Stannis cuts him off and herds him to the Riverlands. The battle near Fairmarket is brutal as Tywin unleashes everything he has to break Stannis. They smash into his lines again and again, but he does not rise to the bait, simply waiting and letting the Lannisters batter themselves to exhaustion. Then he strikes, slowly surrounding their army and encircling it as they are slaughtered. When the day is done, Tywin is forced to retreat, bloodied and humiliated. Worse, no one offers him shelter. The Riverlords vow not to hinder the Lannisters. They have no vow to aid them, and everywhere they go they are shut off. His men are picked off in forests and bogs, harassed by partisans, hunted, starved. Tywin himself is caught trying to sneak into Harrenhal and hanged from its walls, with the curse of Harren the Black claiming one more soul. Without Tywin to hold the line, King's Landing falters. Kevan Lannister holds the Red Keep, but the people are starving, and the Goldcloaks no longer trust Joffrey. The storm has come. Though Kevan holds the capital with a strong force, he has little chance of holding it for long. Tywin's death means their supply lines are cut off, and he questions the loyalty of most of the Goldcloaks under his command. They seem ready to betray him at a moment's notice, and he realizes that there is no recovering. None of the other houses has any reason to aid them, which leaves him effectively on their own. Rather than risk battle, Kevan instead opts to negotiate, hoping to at least secure their house's survival. When Stannis arrives, he presents terms. He will surrender the city if Stannis guarantees safe passage for him and his men. For the most part, the king agrees, but insists that Joffrey and Cersei must die. Kevan agrees to allow Joffrey to be executed, but Tommen and Myrcella are allowed to go, provided they renounce their claim. Stannis agrees, and soon the Lannister army marches back to the Westerlands. There they find Cersei and Jaime, who had retreated there, and with assurances that Tywin's line will continue, he hands them over. As the twin lovers are beheaded, Stannis calls for all the houses to journey and join the proclamation of the king. Among them are the Starks, whom Stannis owes some thanks to.
"Lord Stark, it appears I am in your debt for this victory. Had you not married off your daughter to the Tyrells, I would admit victory would have been impossible."
You are too kind, King Stannis. But in truth, your victory belongs to someone else. My daughter. It was her who came up with that ploy to marry into the Tyrells.
"Your daughter? Isn't she a child?"
Indeed. But the truth remains that she was the one who made this plot.
You have a boy general and a girl schemer. I suppose I should count myself fortunate that the Starks are honorable by nature.
Soon Stannis takes his rightful place, but comes to rely on the Starks as his main allies. He does not trust his Stormlands, who had only switched sides when it was convenient, and much less the Reachmen, who had to be bought. The realm, shattered by years of conflict, now lurches forward under his stern command. His laws are just, but harsh. His enemies are broken, yet his allies grow restless. Sansa Stark moves through the court like a shadow, having married Garland Tyrell, which provides her a seat at the table of power. She manages the Tyrell-Stannis alliance, which grows increasingly fraught as Mace Tyrell grows bolder with each passing moon. He whispers of extending Reach influence into the Riverlands, eyeing abandoned castles and war-ravaged towns. He dispatches envoys and quietly bribes minor lords. He offers to rebuild the ruined settlements with Tyrell gold while approaching the Westerland houses and provides them with generous loans after being severely punished by Stannis. He speaks of stability and rebuilding, though Sansa knows it is conquest in silk wrappings. Olenna Tyrell watches Stannis like a hawk, smiling sweetly as she tests the young wolf. At feasts and councils, she probes for weaknesses, questioning the firmness of Stannis' reign, wonders aloud what might happen should the king fall ill or fall out of favor.
If the storm breaks, my dear, it would be nice to know which way the wind will blow.
That's why I married a Tyrell, my lady. So the wind stays exactly where it should be.
Still, she moves to curb Mace's ambitions, using her marriage to Garland as a subtle leash. She draws him into conversations of duty and memory, reminding him of his oaths to Stannis. She never threatens, simply reminds, and Garland listens, recognizing that the Starks are the Tyrells' key to power. As a Stark in the south, she writes to northern lords with care, ensuring their concerns are heard in court. When Stannis procures increased tithes, she counsels patience. When he demands harsh punishments for deserters, she speaks of the wounds still unhealed. While Robb and Arya ride down the last pockets of resistance in the Crownlands and Riverlands, Sansa builds something more enduring: trust. She and Waymond Manderly oversee a war orphan program, food distribution, and rebuilding projects in torched villages. She funds new granaries, hires singers to calm frightened townsfolk, and sends reach engineers to repair bridges destroyed during the war. In villages where the name Baratheon is met with fear, the name Sansa Stark earns nods and open doors. This is especially vital as whispers of the Lord of Light grow louder. Melisandre, radiant and terrible, speaks of Azor Ahai, of fire and fate. Statues of the Seven are pulled down. Red priests gather in secret. This grows critical in the south as the sparrows begin to appear across the ruins of the realm. They call for a return to the faith and challenge Stannis' Red God, which they see as a demon in disguise. Mace Tyrell supports the resurgence of the Sparrows, hoping to use them as a cudgel to gather more influence. Sansa sees what is coming. Along with Lord Waymond, she places sharp-tongued septas in court, listens carefully to whispers in the Sept of Baelor, and sends coin merchants to hear the moods of the city. Davos aids her, subtle and unassuming, slipping messages into the pockets of tradesmen and keeping close watch on the streets. As Hand of the King, he pushes for more moderate policies. On the streets, they try to soften the image of R'hllor. Davos, Sansa, Thoros of Myr, Beric, and Edmure Tully sponsor projects that benefit and protect the small folk, rebuilding their farms, setting up orphanages, and providing food for those affected by the war. They claim this is also the word of the Lord of Light. They identify texts and scriptures that support this idea. Even Melisandre reluctantly concedes her point and sees how important soft power is. Slowly it changes the domination of the Sparrows. While they remain vocal, many of the small folk are happy to leave this religion, so long as they benefit from it. But as they struggle there, trouble begins brewing from the east, as Daenerys prepares for her invasion. The dragons arrive not with ceremony, but with fire. A scream splits the sky as Drogon descends upon the seas near Eastermont, his wings casting a shadow long enough to shroud a fleet. Daenerys Stormborn steps onto Westerosi soil for the first time since she was a child. Her army, unsullied Dothraki, sellswords, and exiled Westerosi, follow in her wake. But Westeros is not what she expected. There is no mad boy on the throne, no Lannister lions snarling from the capital. Stannis Baratheon rules with law and order. His banners fly across the realm. There is no civil war, only embers cooling in rebuilt halls. Fields are green, roads are safe, temples are repaired. In some places, the people even smile. And Daenerys, the liberator, is unsure of who to free. Still, she finds cracks. Mace Tyrell comes to her court, bowed and bitter, Loras at his side. They speak of chains wrapped in parchment, of oaths made under duress. They speak of a king too rigid, of a court too narrow, of a girl, the Stark girl, who rules from behind veils and men. They remind Daenerys that they had stood together during Robert's rebellion and wish to do so now. They offer men, gold, and ships. They even offer a husband, Renly Baratheon, exiled to the Wall, who can be returned later on. Some lords rise alongside them. Houses Peake, Tarly, and Redwyn are among many houses that rally to her side, giving her local support. Others, like houses Rowan, Oakhart, and Fossaway, remain loyal to Garland and Sansa. With Mace's bannermen at her back, Daenerys strikes deep into the Stormlands. She calls it a liberation. Her dragons make it something else. Castles blacken under dragon flame. Lords swear fealty not out of love, but terror. The few Lannister remnants, scattered and leaderless, are annihilated as Mace also eagerly seizes the gold mines in the Westerlands. Stannis marches to meet her. Robb Stark rides at his side, ice-eyed and calm. Ned Stark follows, slower but still iron strong. Arya slips through the chaos, a ghost with a blade. They win battles, smart, grueling battles, but every victory is undone by flame. When it comes to normal battles, the Royalists win more often than not. Though the Dothraki and Unsullied are skilled, they are two armies forcibly combined. They are not familiar with Westerosi armor and face off against brilliant tacticians like Stannis and Robb, who can outmaneuver them. What they don't have are dragons, which reverse whatever gains they make and swoop past. Each fort taken is torched from the sky. Each bridge defended is shattered in a single pass by Rhaegal or Viserion. When their armies face her, they take heavy losses just to wound the dragons, as it requires careful ballista shots to injure one. The stalemate bleeds the realm. The fields of the Reach are scorched once more. The Faith militant rises in King's Landing, preaching that dragons are a punishment from the gods for turning away from the Seven. Commoners riot. The nobility splinters. His grip weakens as the people around him doubt. But not everyone loses hope. Sansa Stark gathers with Waymond Manderly and Davos Seaworth. They study Daenerys' words, her letters, and the pattern of her attacks. They realize the truth beneath her fire.
She sees herself as a revolutionary. She wants to remake the world as she did in Slaver's Bay.
She sees herself as the fire that cleanses, not a queen, a revolution.
Like Stannis, she will not bend because she fights with absolute certainty about her cause. That means not defeating her in battle, but at her heart. So they strike her where she isn't, in the world she seeks to make. Though the battle on land is contested, Stannis still rules the waves, and a quiet fleet, black-sailed and lean ships, sails from the north under the command of Roose Bolton. The man is cruel, but precise. He lands not in Westeros, but in Slaver's Bay. He does not conquer, but destabilizes. Villages are burned. Freedmen are armed and pointed toward former slavers. Enemies of Daenerys rise from the shadows and begin attacking her people. While none of them support the return of slavery, Roose and his expedition act as a force of brigands. Daenerys and her army are all west, leaving only a small garrison of freedmen who struggle to contain their foes. This cuts off her supply lines and prevents new levies from joining her, while those caught in the war demand her return. The Dragon Queen is forced to look eastward once again. A message reaches her on wings. You cannot remake the world if your own is burning. Choose your throne. Faced with war on two fronts, Daenerys pauses. She meets with her commanders. Grey Worm urges caution. Barristan advises a ceasefire. Missandei pleads for mercy. Her dragons circle above as she stands at a crossroads. And in Westeros, Sansa Stark waits. Soon enough, Daenerys comes and offers to come to terms. Daenerys Targaryen sits tall, regal in silver and red, her crown glinting faintly in the lamplight. At her side stand Ser Barristan, Grey Worm, and Missandei. Across from her, Stannis Baratheon stands rigid, arms behind his back like a commander still on campaign. Sansa sits beside him, her eyes fixed steady on Daenerys. Ned Stark watches quietly, his voice unneeded, his presence enough. Davos stands with his hands folded.
For all your fire, your highness, the realm has not risen to greet you. The great houses have not backed your claim. More have burned beneath your wings than stood behind your banners.
My crown was stolen from me before I was born. What loyalty do you expect from men who bow to usurpers?
Loyalty is earned, and when you arrived, you set fire to the Stormlands, to towns that had never wronged you. Even among the Tyrells support fractures. Many still whisper your name with fear, not hope. You claim to want to break the wheel, but it seems you have become part of it.
We do not burn cities to ash. We do not pretend to be queens while abandoning our own people across the sea.
You invaded my lands, unleashed marauders, and putting swords in the hands of brigands.
The Crow calling the Raven black. In Slaver's Bay you destroyed kings, took cities, and ruled by force. Was that not a conquest? You call yourself a liberator. Don't get me wrong, I would have done the same thing, but I would have ruled them, not played conqueror in another realm. What then makes you different from those you cast down?
If I may, this war has no future. Not for us, not for you. Agreed. You are not without honor, your grace. But you are not here to unite Westeros. You are here to avenge ghosts. This war has no cause.
I only wanted what was mine.
Then take what you've built. Return to it. Marine is your throne now, not this one. If you truly wish to change Westeros, do it as an equal. Tell us of the injustices you've seen, and we shall address them.
Mace Tyrell will be stripped of titles and holdings. His rebellion ends. You will recall your dragons, your ships, and your armies. In return, I will recognize Slaver's Bay as yours, and I will consider implementing reforms within reason that you believe serve the small folk.
Daenerys lists what she wants to see. Increased representation for the small folk, including a more representative system and protections from a lord's abuse. Stannis nods along. Most are reasonable and doable. It will take time, but possible. When she finishes, Daenerys stands and offers her hand.
Then we have peace.
Just as quickly as she arrives, Daenerys leaves with her armies, fleet, and dragons, leaving Westeros burnt but unbroken. All except for Mace Tyrell, who was removed and forced into exile. Willis takes over and is quick to renounce all conquests and begin rebuilding. To help him, he recruits Sansa to help run the Reach. Meanwhile, Stannis begins implementing the reforms that Daenerys wanted. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.